Welcome to Getting Your Message Across. Presentations, I'm sure you know, can really make us or break us. I want to take the next 5 minutes to provide an overview of the 4 key elements involved in planning a presentation: purpose, audience, content and form. I've used this method now in over 20 countries over the last 2 years. The structure's really simple, it's easy to follow, and I know it'll help with your planning. So where do we begin? We begin with purpose. Why are you there delivering that presentation? Are you telling somebody something? Are you selling them on an idea? Or are you impelling them, persuading them to take action in some way? So let's just think about what we're doing here. If we're telling something, it's knowledge, it's background information. If we're trying to persuade them, then we're encouraging them to take specific action. Or impelling, we actually need them to change their attitude, change their behaviour maybe. When we've considered why we're actually here, that's all around who is in the audience. Let's think about the numbers. If there's only a few in the audience, it might be quite informal. But if there are a lot more in the audience, we've obviously got to be a lot more formal. And it will also be affected by why they're there. Have they, for example, been told to attend? Well, if they're told to come, first of all, it's not you. You need to remain positive. You might still have some really good news for them that they will engage with you as the presentation goes by. Somebody else will be taking the blame for why they've had to turn up. On the other hand, they might need to be there. And if they really need to be there, we've got to find examples that make it relevant to them, useful, practical examples that they can take away and apply in their own thinking or in their own place of work or their own context. If, of course, they want to be there, well, they're on our side to start off with. That's really great because we can work with them, involve them, use their expertise and really feel that they're part of the conversation that we're having during that presentation. So when we've thought about the purpose and the audience, we can go on to the third element of our presentation planning, and that is content. What is our content about? Aristotle said we should always have an intro or a beginning, a middle and an end. Our presentation should definitely follow that format. A nice easy way to remember what to include in an intro is to use the initial letters. So I, interest. What is of interest to the people who are there? What will be interesting to them? The N is for needs. What do they need to know? What do they need to take away? What do they need you to include? And what's your title? The title I've chosen for this is Getting Your Message Across, because that describes it in simple words, simple language, and explains exactly what we're trying to do. So there's our title. Now R. R is reference. What reference points do you have? What are we basing this on? What evidence base have we got to say this is why we are sharing this information? What reassurance do the audience have that you are the right person to discuss presentation skills, let's say, with them? And finally, the O for overview. We need to give in the introduction an overview of what the whole topic is about so that they can pace themselves and understand what's happening. So there's our intro for our content. Then the main body. The main body itself, how do we structure that? Well, start with a brainstorm. What sort of things could you include? Then identify what you must include and discard the things that you actually don't need. From those that you know you must include, think then about a logical sequence. Is that going to be chronological? Or is it argument and counter-argument? Is it positive and negative? How is that going to work best for your audience? How will they understand that sequencing most? So put your content in the right order and then close. Pull it all together, summarise what you just said. Is there a call to action statement that's needed or a simple statement that summarises what you've been trying to get across? So that's our content. Finally, fourth point, format. How will we do this? As we said before, if it's a small group, we can, if the topic allows, be less formal. The bigger the audience, the more formal we need to be. We also need to consider as part of our format, how are we going to do it with visual aids? Because obviously We don't always want to have death by PowerPoint, and a visual is there to aid understanding. It's not for you, it's for the audience, although we can often gain benefit from that. So we not only need to think about the format in terms of visual presentation, but variety. Are we always going to give straightforward verbal information? Are we going to break with questions and answers? If we are going to do that, is that all the way through? Is it at the end? Do they know when they can ask questions and answers? So we need to think about ways in which this can remain interesting and keep people interested throughout the whole of that process. And then very finally, we need to summarise. And to summarise what we've just done, there are 4 main areas when we plan a presentation: our purpose, our audience, the content itself, and the format that we're actually going to deliver that in. Just remember, the audience have come expecting a professional presentation. So you need to make sure when you're in front of them that you are that professional.